Hello everyone, welcome to Iterate's fifth podcast, and this podcast topic is logo designing, one of very interesting topics in designing overall. And today we have an amazing guest here with us whose name is Blessin. He has expertise in brand design and obviously logo design as well. And Blessin, can you introduce yourself and what do you do to the audience?
Awesome. Thank you very much, man. Super happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to what we get out of this podcast, and
Yes.
probably helpful stuff for those who are listening. So for those who don't know, I'm Blessin and I'm a logo designer, and I started as a logo designer, eventually branched out into brand design, brand identity, visual identity, all that stuff. And yeah, I've been doing it for the past 6 years, and it's been an amazing ride.
Amazing. So we do this in every single podcast, Blessing, and it's that how to actually, what's the basic roadmap like, and so what are the insights do you have on roadmap of getting started with logo designing?
Yep. So, when it comes to roadmaps, definitely one of the things that we need to figure out for people who are starting out in logo design or maybe in brand design, let's stick to logo design specifically. It's the fact that are you really interested, in logo design, or are you really passionate about logos? This is something that plays a very important role. One of the reasons being because logos are just not visuals, but they're much more than that, and it's not just an icon or it's not just a symbol, but it's much more than that and carries a lot of meaning and carries a lot of story behind it. So in order to craft something that has so much of importance and so much of value in itself, you need to be passionate about it, because just because you can design doesn't mean you should get into logo design, or just because you can think of a great concept doesn't mean that your logos might work well for your brands or for your clients. So the first thing I would definitely say is figure out whether or not you're passionate about logos. Does logos
Yeah.
captivate your attention? And is it something that is so aspiring to you, is so interesting to you that you want to dig in the details and figure out what it's about and all that stuff? That's the first and foremost step. Because if you jump into logo design just for the money, if you jump in logo design just because you think it's cool, you'll probably burn out in the next 2 or 3 months, because it's easy to get lost, easy because the market is so saturated. So that would be the first step, I would say. And once you have found your interest, once you have found a passion, and you feel like this is what I should pursue, and this is what I feel like I'm destined to do this, and you feel like you can give so much of value by your designs and logos specifically, then we move on to the roadmap where we figure out the path of self-taught, or maybe learning it from professionals and things like that. But yeah, this is the the starting roadmap. Probably we can talk about it more as we move forward.
Yes.
But yeah, I would say figuring out whether or not you have the passion inside you, and if you allow the passion to lead you, it's going to take you places that gets easier for you.
Genuinely, it's very true actually, what you said. It requires a mindset as well, what I think, and secondly it requires practice. The main problem is practice, and people, if you want to generate good logos, you definitely have to practice. Moving on, I had one more question. Once you are sorted, you have the skill set in you, what do you do next? What software to choose from? How to actually implement? What's the mindset like?
Yeah. So when it comes to softwares, it's so funny that at this point we have a bunch of options, and we have the plethora of options when it comes to softwares and tools. Earlier it was just Adobe ruling the whole design market, and it was just, if you want to be a designer, you just get onto Adobe and just do the thing, right? Learn Adobe, Photoshop, Illustrator, and all that stuff. But for logo designs and obviously brand designs, the major software that industry standard that is being used by a lot of people, and also a great tool, is Adobe Illustrator, obviously. And this is what everybody should focus on learning when you are trying to be a logo designer, because that's where the whole vector style comes in. That's where the whole vector world is. And because logos are meant to be vectors, and they should be vector based designs, Adobe Illustrator is the first stop that you should look for. Like, it is the first software that you should learn more about. But at the end of the day, to be very honest, once you have the hang of it, once you have learned a lot of these skills and you've figured out what you want to do, and the techniques, and the ins and outs of designs or logo design, I would say tools really don't matter that much. Something that gets the job done for you is the one that you should go for. So recently I've been doing a series on my Instagram called Logos
Yes.
in Affinity, where I design logos, where I've redesigned the logos that I've did already in Adobe Illustrator in Affinity Designer to see how it matches. So so far it's been great. I mean, I haven't found a big reason where I would say that Affinity is not the one to go for. So that shows to say that tools really don't matter that much. It depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it. And at the end of the day, as I mentioned, whatever gets the job done for you, just go for it.
Okay. So that's the software side, right? What mindset does it takes to actually generate very good logos? Because I myself have tried logo generation for Designare, for many other companies as well. And one thing I face is sort of blockage after some point of time. What mindset should you follow?
That's an amazing question, and a tough one as well. Because when somebody asks you how to get good in logo design, it's something that I'm pretty sure majority of the designers, specifically logo designers who are there, they would agree to this, that there's no hard and fast rule that we have, like you can do this and this, and you can get better at logo design.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, it needs to drive out of your passion for logos. It needs to come out of a space where you feel like, I'm really passionate about it. When you work, let's take an example of a client. Let's say you're working with a streetwear brand, and you're there to design a logo for them. And you start sketching out concepts, you start sketching out few designs, you start looking up inspirations, similar brands, competitors, and you figure out oh, maybe this, I can do this, or maybe I can do that. But few sketches in, you just feel lost. And that's because it's being, influenced or driven by the outside impact, like, the designs that you see, or the inspirations that you're taking from, or the competitors that you have analyzed. All of these things, right? It's coming from them, and it's not coming from you. So once you put yourself in their shoes, and you think and act like the owner, the client itself. So let's say you put yourself in the shoes of the streetwear brand owner, and you look at brands, and you look at your audience, and you look at the designs that you like. You think like the owner. When you think like the owner, when you think like someone who's really the the essence of the brand, once you go that way, I am definitely sure that you will think more outside the box. Because when we sit in the designer's box itself, that's where the whole creative block comes in, because we don't step out of that box and try to explore more. Maybe look up inspirations where you might not feel like. Pinterest, Dribble, and Behance is the one that everybody goes for, but how about vintage tattoos? How about vintage coins? How about maybe newspaper layouts, or maybe magazine layouts that were done in 90s or 80s? And taking all of these inspiration together, and then coming up with something that you feel like might fit well and make them stand out, will get much more better concepts and much more better logo ideas. Also, the logos need not be the only thing that works well for the brand. There's obviously supporting elements that need to work together, and you will figure out, once you understand the whole concept of brand identity and visual identity, you will figure out that even if you have a decent logo, even if you have a logo which is very simple, but you have the supporting elements which work really, really well, and you have cracked the code where you have great color scheme and typography, you will see that the logo looks much better with them than just a logo being just a good logo and nothing more than that.
True. Very true. Now that we have covered the mindset, now that I have actually got out of the box, generated a good logo as well, the next thing that comes, and the buzzword for 2023, is artificial intelligence and chat GPT, right? I have asked this to all the guests, and I'll ask you as well. What do you think? And as we are covering different topics with different podcasts, there are different topics, and AI can play roles in different parts. What do you think? How AI can contribute in logo design specifically?
Yep. Yeah, it's a very interesting stage we are at, specifically when we talk about design and AI, because to be very honest, we are so much now into that stage where AI is like 50% of our workflows now runs through AI, right? And to be honest, it has been there. It's not like AI was not there. I mean, it's just that we have coined that term right now, and it's the buzzword, as you mentioned. And that's at this point, bringing this fear in where we feel like whether or not AI will take over our jobs, and how is it gonna help us in our process and all that stuff. But I'm very optimistic about it. I'm at that point, or I'm at that side where I feel like we should incorporate AI as much possible, very wisely, not relying totally on the AI systems, but actually using them to utilize its importance or its features in a way that can be helpful for us. Specifically, if we talk about logo design, I have tried these AI tools, let's say ChatGPT, Midjourney, and DALI, and all that stuff, and just to look up, how they come up with logo concepts, or do they even help us in the process. But at this point, it's very cliche. It's a very base level situation right now. And when it comes to logo designs or brand design or brand identity stuff, I don't think it's at that level where it generates stuff for you that's out of the box, because we don't have the human touch to it. It's just based on a few algorithms, and it's giving you the same algorithms over and over again. So it can be helpful in few instances. So I'll give a great example. Let's say you're working for a brand and you have a logo, but you're not sure about the typography. You're not sure about the feel, the look and feel that you want for the brand. You can just get on ChatGPT, have the brand brief that you have, and ask ChatGPT to act as a design consultant and help you with few explorations, right? ChatGPT can give you 3 or 4 explorations where it gives you color schemes, it gives you typography ideas on what to use and what not to use. You can use these to just brainstorm and then come up with something that fits well. So I would say AI is obviously a gift to everybody, but at the same time, relying totally on it would be the worst take. And especially for us creatives and designers, we need to use our brains much more than we use AI. So I think that's my take on it.
AI and all the generative thingies that the actual artificial intelligence are doing, we can actually use them as tools instead of actually doing the whole work. And if we are stuck somewhere, for example, if you want to create a story with that logo, we can ask ChatGPT to do that, because it's based on the older data of humans. And very amazing intake you have over AI. Moving forward, I had a personal question with you. Which specific logos do you like of different brands? It can be any brand, but give me your top 3 logos.
Yeah. So out of the box, I would say I not just because I like Apple products and not just because it's a famous brand, but I like Apple's logo very much because I myself, I'm drawn more towards simplistic and minimal designs and stuff that's really mysterious and things like that. I like those aspects. I like those visual styles. So Apple is definitely the one, but I feel like, Apple has become too cliche at this point. Like everybody likes Apple
Yeah, yeah.
logos. Like there's nobody who doesn't like the
Does
Apple
not like,
logo,
yeah.
right? But that's because of a reason, because of how it works, and it's a great definition of how a good logo should be. I also like Nike swoosh. Again, it
Yeah.
becomes a very cliche logo, but every designer knows, how amazing that stuff works and how great that swoosh has become now. So Nike swoosh is the one. I've recently also gotten into vintage style logos and vintage style visuals and things like that. So more on that vintage style and vintage vibe logos where we have chunky text or
True.
maybe chunky letter marks or maybe chunky icons. I like those logos a lot. So yeah, a mix of vintage and minimal style is what I like.
Got it. So basically, depending on the theme or as well of if, like for example, we are building a specific brand,
Yep,
and I
absolutely.
completely agree with you. Apple and Nike are the two companies which I love as well. And you mentioned
Absolutely, man.
typographies, right?
Yep.
Do you think typography plays an important role in logo designing?
Absolutely, yes. 100% yes. I feel like, if you have a great typography system, you can elevate your logo designs like 2 times or even 4 times. If you have a decent logo and you feel like your logo is not doing justice, uh, try pairing it with typography, try pairing with colors and typography, specifically typography can make or break your designs. Like, if you have great typography, this your designs are going to be elevated in a level that feels like you have did it with way more storytelling and way more research. And using the right typography is also so much important in setting the right tone, in setting the right look and feel. So you can play around as much you want with colors, but if you don't have the typography paired right well with it, it just doesn't work. So I would say, typography plays so much of role. There are brands, those who don't have color schemes, like they
Yeah.
they just use monochrome colors, but then they play with typography. That's strong part of the brand identity system. So I would say yes, typography plays a major role in how you look into design.
Okay. So there are obviously specific typographies which are super famous, like Helvetica, right? Like
Yep.
the Helvetica is a it's a typeface which can be actually modified into different mood boards and
Yep.
can actually be used in different styles. Very interesting, very interesting. Moving on, I wanna know what are the basic steps involved into actually creating a very crazy looking logo that you have created in the past. I've seen your logos as well. You are creating something portfolio. I don't remember the name. Yeah, so I want to know the steps.
Cool. So let me just break it down very simply. Like, what's my process? Like, I'll share my process on how I actually tackle this. And let's say I have a client and they come to me for a logo design or maybe visual identity. We sit down first for a discovery call, which is where we, figure out, and learn more about the brand. So I like to first learn more about the brand first and get more, information on how the brand started and, what was the inspiration behind the brand. Was it just money making or is it a passion brand? And I like to get on their shoes first, try to understand their target audience, try to understand their demographic, try to understand who their competitors are, and also try to understand their expectations of how they want their logos to be, or how they want their visuals, or what are their personal tastes. The reason being, all of these points together will determine how I sketch things or how I come up with concepts. So first would be definitely a discovery call. That's something that I like to do and I enjoy doing as well, because it makes me sit in their place and look it from their perspective and learn more about the brand before I even get into visuals. So discovery call is the first phase. Second is where I sit down and prepare a stylescape, maybe 2 or 3 stylescapes. So these are different moods of stylescapes. So let's say one is very neutral, basic. The second would be a little bit more on the vibrant side, and third one will be like totally out of the box and totally wild, something that you might not expect. So having these stylescapes helps the client also to figure out the potential that we have and the potential visual look and feel that we are going for, and then they choose among those stylescapes. Based on these stylescapes, I then come to sketching logos.
Got it.
This is where it takes, I would say, this is where it takes most of the time. We sketch logos and then we present them, and that's the part of the initial part where we work on logos, and then obviously revisions and coming up with concepts and to and fro stuff works. But I would say the strongest pointers are discovery call, and the second would be the stylescape, where you brainstorm so much, where you have different mood boards and then you play around, which cuts down your work by, let's say, 40 to 50%.
Very interesting, very interesting. These were the steps involved, right? Now, I want to know if, firstly, how many years of experience do you have in this brand identity and logo designing?
Yeah, so I started in 2017.
Okay.
So
6
that's
years.
somewhere around like 6 years. Yeah. But I started design back in 2016 or so. So
Okay.
let's say 6 to 7 years, somewhere around 6 to 7 years.
Got it. So it took you 6 years to actually reach here where you are. So what are the things that you would do if you were starting out again, from scratch?
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I, keep thinking about. Like, what is it that I would do if I started in 2023? Because I see a lot of people starting out, and I connect with their accounts and I connect with their designs, and I feel like it's a, to be very honest, a great area where you are at the start of your career, and there's so much room to explore. There's so much of freedom that you have, the creative freedom that you have, that you can explore so much. The first thing that I would definitely work on if I would start today is to show my work as much as possible, right? As much as possible. So this is something that I used to do back when I started out, and that's the only reason that I got clients. That's the only reason that I pursued this career, even because I used to put out literally everything that I designed, even if it was just for fun, and even if it was just, it might not make sense maybe, but I used to put it out, right? So number one thing I would say, just as the book by Austin Kleon says, right?
Show your work.
Like, show your work as much as possible. Put it out there, even if it doesn't make sense. And also, the other thing that we are so much caught into this perfectionism world, where we want things to be perfect, where we want our stuff that we put out to be perfect. Let it be a carousel, or let it be a video or reel, or whatever that might be. We want it to be so perfect that we waste our time just like tinkering all those little details, but actually not putting out stuff. So easier said than done, to be very honest, but that would be the most important thing that I would do right now if I started off from scratch, is show my work as much as possible and bombard my target audience with work, so that they can't help but notice, that kind of thing.
Also, like, they providing or showing your work also helps you with feedback. And there's a saying which there's a very famous quote, like 2 teams were given to make pots. One team were given instruction to make one single pot and just make only single pot, and one team was told to actually create as many pots as they can in the given specific time. And the second team obviously made so many good pots, and the one team who were given the single pot, they lost, because they were pointing it out, making it perfect. So very, very interesting. And with that, I think logo designing is very clear to everyone, but I think logo design also plays an important role in the brand identity. It gives the brand a symbol. So what if is a small business is just starting out? Okay. they don't have much leverage. They want to create a logo. Very simple. So what do you do then if you don't have any expertise as well? Which type of logo will actually help them?
Yeah. I would say it totally depends on the context, obviously. I wouldn't say that there's a one line answer where we could say that this is the logo that you should go with. And, at least to start with, you can go with this. I would say for startups, those who don't have that budget to hire designers or maybe have that, facility where they have consultants or design consultants and all this stuff, even to start out, I would say, getting online and finding or buying pre-made logos as well is also something that they can do just to start out with, and a great example is Clubhouse. When it launched, it didn't had a proper logo thing, right? They were just using pictures of random people probably.
Yeah.
But they did good. I mean, it's because their product was good at that time, and it was kind of the one that was like they hit the right spot at the right time, I would say, and that's the reason it worked for them. But that being said, it proves that you don't need a fancy logo to start with. You don't need a proper logo to just get your stuff out. When you're starting out, the whole focus should be obviously on making your product and your brand reach to people that you want to be. So getting online and looking up logos, pre-made logos, there are so many pre-made logos right now at this point, and they're decent ones. It's not bad. To start with, you can do that. And if it's something, if your brand name, let's say, if your brand name is short and if your brand name is something that interesting, you can also use the word marks. You can use a font, or you can use any sort of typeface that you feel like fits well, and you could just start with that, right? To start with, I would say these are all enough ones to get started. And once you move on, then you learn more about your brand, learn more about your persona as the brand itself, and then maybe you onboard designers and they get it done for you. But to start with, you can just go online and stuff and find stuff. Maybe even you can just use any emoji that you have, right? Because there are many brands that are now using emojis as their logos.
Very true.
But yeah,
very interesting. Like, I have gotten so many ideas now. I can actually tell different people as well if they are starting out, because many starters are actually students, and in India specifically, people are actually crazy about logos, and there are many homegrown brands as well which are emerging, such as Jaywalking, Blue Orange, and everything in apparel specifically. And very amazing insights, Blessing. Moving on to the last segment of this podcast episode is the resources. Everyone is here for resources, and all the time they are looking for resources. Throw them all the resources that you think are the perfect resources that you have used and helped you personally.
Yeah. Well, this is something that everybody can get drowned in. Like,
very true.
Us designers have so many resources available right now at this point as well. Fun fact, I'm working on a side project where, I'm working on a website which has the best resources and tools specifically for brand designers. This is a side project that I've been working on for a while. It's not, coming to an end because obviously the way we think on that perfectionism side. But yeah, I'm working on a website. Specifically, if you ask me, like, what are the resources that I use, I don't use any single platforms for any sort of particular work, but I've been using Elements Envato for a lot of the stuff that I do.
Envato.
I mean, for my videos and things like that. For fonts and things, I have a list of websites that have great fonts. And all of these fonts will be, I mean, all of these resources will be a part of that website that I'm talking about. And for color inspirations, I use colors.co
Okay.
and also use Adobe Colors. These
Okay.
are the two color tools that I use to get great color schemes for my projects. And for mockups, I use ls.supply. I think that's what the website is. It's called ls.supply. They have
ls.supply.
amazing mockups and great high quality set of mockups. Also, like consistent mockups. These are not like random mockups here and there, right? We
Yeah.
have a lot of these mockup websites where they have like random mockups from here and there, but in my opinion they don't work,
Yeah.
to be very honest. They don't work. You need to have a visual consistency even with your mockups, even with your presentations. So ls.supply works for me as mockups. And yeah, there are so many, man. There's so many, like,
Yeah.
it can be a separate podcast episode if we have sort of like,
Yeah.
talk just about
Details of
resources on
resources.
color. Yeah, on color and typography, on, all of these things. Like, there are a lot of these brainstorming, mind mapping websites. And, for inspiration, I use Pinterest a lot. I use Pinterest a lot for inspiration. And, Behance as well. But Pinterest, the most of the time, it's Pinterest. And then I use one thing called raindrop.io,
Raindrop.
which is sort of like a bookmark manager. I used to use My Mind, but My Mind is great. It's amazing. The whole visual experience is amazing. But at the same time, it can get pricey for you. So I stopped using My Mind. I found out, like, I can include Raindrop in my workflow. So I'm using Raindrop. But yeah, these are the, like, few resources that I can think of, but there are hundreds of them, obviously.
True, very true. And moving on to the conclusion, what
Yep.
tips do you have for our audience here today?
Man,
It could not be specific to logo, it could be any designing,
Correct.
overall designing. Yeah.
Yep. I would say, like, something that I was struggling a lot for the past year or so is the fact that, we have nothing to lose to put out our work in social media or anywhere, per se. There's so much that we overthink and, hold on to. The reason being totally on that imposter syndrome factor, where we feel like we're not good enough, where we feel like we get bombarded with so many amazing works on social media, right?
Yours.
And yep, come on. I would like, I would keep myself like very at the level where
Your
I'm
work is very
like,
aesthetic.
I really appreciate that, man. But I
Yeah.
feel like, there's so much to learn and so much to
Very true.
cover. But yeah, we get bombarded with so much of amazing work, so much of like top-notch work. At the same time, we forget where we started and where we are right now, and the way we have evolved. And we just focus on the stuff that we see, and we compare ourselves with that. But the better comparison technique is to compare your stuff with what you were doing last year, maybe 2 years before, right? So look at your journey and focus on your journey and come up with stuff that you will be proud of. Don't design or don't work on stuff that just works, or that's trending, or that's something, gets more views, gets more money, all that stuff. But focus on stuff that you are proud of. Like, if you look at your design and you feel like, yeah, this is something that I would be interested in. This is something, if I look at it somewhere else, I would be really proud of it. Like, I would definitely get inspired by this. Design that stuff. Don't worry about, what others are doing, and don't worry about others' journey. Focus on your journey. That's all that matters. And again, concluding it with the same fact, show your work as much as possible. Unless and until you show your work, unless and until you throw your work out there, nobody's going to notice. Even if you are like, the best logo designer, the best illustrator, the best graphic designer, whatever, doesn't matter. But if you don't show your work, if you don't market yourself, like, it's all in vain. So put out your work. Take this as a reminder, or take this as a motivation to put out your work, even if it's mediocre. Just
Yeah.
put it out. You have nothing to lose. Come on.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Blessing, for actually joining this podcast and starting this revolution of logo design and giving amazing insights as well. If anyone today has any doubts, leave it in the comment section, and we hope that you have gained a lot of insights. Thank you so much, Blessing, for actually joining today's podcast.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It
Bye-bye.
was a pleasure to
Yeah.
be here, and I really, really hope that all the listeners, live their life to the fullest and find their true potential as designers and creatives. Again, thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much, Blessing.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
All right, man. Bye-bye.